Good morning. Hello, my friends. Hello. Welcome back. Today is Thursday, April the 30th, and today may be the last time that some of us meet together um, this week. Can you believe it? Already it's time. If you have done all your work correctly and you have nothing missing, then it might be your last day. I cannot believe it. You guys have hung in there. I hope that you got my card that I sent to your home. Look in the mail if you haven't, and ask mom or dad if you have any mail. I wanted to tell my friends how much I missed you and how much I have enjoyed working with you. And we will continue to work. For the next day or so, and then some of you will be done. I cannot believe it. As we start today, our lesson is called Dinosaur Rock. Not all rocks are just rocks. Some are actually fossils. Do you know what a fossil is? Rocks with the imprint of ancient animals or plants left in them. You see, when an animal dies, its body decays and it disappears most of the time. But if an animal dies in a watery area, the body might sink into mud and maybe quickly be covered with muddy soil. When this happens, the soft parts of the animal's body, like the skin and the internal organs, decompose, but the hard parts, like the teeth and bones, are preserved. Over a long period of time, sedimentary rocks form around these animal remains and forms what we call a fossil. A sedimentary rock can form when sand or bits of shells or bones cement together. Now, what can become fossils? Plants can turn into fossils, animal footprints, burrows, all that can become fossils, and much more. Do you know what a scientist is called that studies fossils? Big word, paleontologist. They study ancient plants and animals by studying what they've left behind in rocks. Without fossils, do you know what we would not know? We wouldn't even know that dinosaurs existed. Did you know that you also can leave fossils, impressions behind wherever you go? They're not really rocks, but instead, you can leave an impression on somebody's heart by what you do and what you say and how you make people feel. Did you realize that? You can leave an impression on others, how you treat people, how you react when sister or brother say something to you, or how you help mom or dad or grandma or granddad. Do you make people feel good when they're around you? Or do they run from you like you're a Tyrannosaurus Rex? Just as scientists learn how dinosaurs from fossil impressions, they learn about things. Do you know that people can learn about you by the impressions that you leave? So leave something today that you will be proud of. Leave a smile, leave a note. Take some time to write a letter. Miss Gaylord took some time to write letters this time because she had some extra time at home. I like to write letters, and so I sent you one. Leave an impression on somebody's heart today. Are you ready to take our last spelling test? Can you believe that, of the year? Get your paper, get your pencil, and let's get ready to write our last words. Now, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, you got all 6 words each day. So now your Riggs document should be complete. You should have typed in your 6 words. You should have written your 3 sentences with each section of words, and you can press turn in to Miss Gaylord so that you're not missing any work. Okay? Very good. Okay, you've had time to get your pencil and paper. Number 1, the first word is thumb. Thumb. Number 2, the word is till. I must till the soil before I plant the seed. Till. Number 3, tills. Tills. If Jacob tills the soil, it will be ready for planting. Tills. Number 4, reprove. Reprove. Reprove means scold. Dad did reprove me when I didn't take out the trash. Okay. Number 5, mixture. Mixture. Number 6, nail. Nail. Number 7, cup. Cup. There are 8 ounces in 1 cup. Number 8, pint. Pint. There are 2 cups in 1 pint. Number 9, quart. Quart. There are 2 pints in 1 quart or 4 cups in 1 quart. Number 10, gallon. Gallon. There are 4 quarts in 1 gallon. Gallon. Number 11, watch. Watch. Will you come watch my practice? Watch. Number 12, trial. Trial. We will have a trial class tomorrow. Trial. Number 13, batter. Batter. Stir the batter with a spoon. Batter. Number 14, cookbook. Cookbook. Number 15, voyage. Voyage. Number 16, discourage. Discourage. Number 17, encourage. Encourage. And number 18, storage. Storage. Now you have all 18 words. Now, did you look back over your words, see if you formed each letter correctly? Does your A look like an O? Does your I look like an E? Check it carefully. And check to see, did you cross your T's, dot your I's? Are any words on our list today capital letters? Any of them have capital letters? Not today. Let's get ready to write the 2 sentences for dictation. Okay? Excuse me. Now, let's look at the type of sentences we have learned, okay? All right, what is the most common form of sentences that we excuse me, learn? The one that makes a statement. We call it a declarative. Very good, okay? A declarative sentence makes a statement. It ends with a period. Nice, okay? What kind of sentence is a question sentence? An asking sentence would be called an interrogative. Interrogative. It ends with a question mark. What kind of sentence tells you what to do? It's called a command. Okay? We didn't really learn that name of that. It's called an imperative. A command usually ends with a period. What kind of sentence shows strong and sudden feeling? Strong and sudden feeling, like you were going to say it loudly or yell it. Exclamatory ends in a exclamation point. I'll give you 2 sentences today, and then at the end, I'll ask you to tell me what kind of sentences they are. Number 1, if you need to pause and catch up while I'm talking, please do so. Number 1, can you place a pint of milk at my table? Can you place a pint of milk at my table? Can you place a pint of milk at my table? Can you place a pint of milk at my table? If you need to pause, press pause and skip a line. Sentence number 2. Let's watch to see if the batter is done. Let's watch to see if the batter is done. Let's watch to see if the batter is done. One last time. Let's watch to see if the batter is done. Can you tell me what type of sentence the first one was? Can you place a pint of milk at my table? Interrogative, a question sentence, and it ends with a question mark. Look at number 2. Let's watch to see if the batter is done. What kind of sentence is that? Declarative, and it ends in a period. Have somebody check your sentences after the test to see how well you did. Okay, very good. All right, so we are done with the rigs portion of today, and you get your first reward. You know what it is? Some money. Let's count by the end how much we have. We have $10. Good job. Very good. Okay. If you need to get your math materials, go ahead and get those out for me. I uploaded the math onto the Google Classroom. I know some of you have printed out the sheets and you have them there to work with. If you did not, you'll just have to listen. How about grabbing a piece of paper and you can write down what we are going to discuss, okay? We'll do 2 today. The first one is on comparing money, okay? So let me pull up the sheet. Let's see. Okay, here we go. Comparing money. You were supposed to write the greater than sign, less than, or equal to in the box. Okay, so don't forget which sign is which. This is our greater than, this is our less than. Some of you remember the L in less than. Looks kind of like the L here. Some of you remember by the alligator. Remember you said opens to the bigger number, like 8 is greater than 4. 4 is less than 8. Some of you remember it different ways. Don't forget your signs, okay? All right, so let's look at number 1, Okay, you had a quarter, 1/4. Okay, let's write that down. How much is 1/4? Remember, Miss Gaylord told you to write your decimal point and your digits. 25 cents. 1 dime is worth how much? 10 cents. Make sure you line up your numbers and your decimal points. You have 2 nickels, okay? So a nickel is worth how much? 5 cents. So let's count by fives. 5, 10. You have 2. So we put down 10 cents for the nickels. You have 2 pennies. How much should we put? Decimal point. Don't forget the 0. Very good. Don't forget the 0. Okay? All right. So here's what you have for the first item. Okay? Let's see. You have 25 cents, 10 cents, 10 cents, and 2 cents. Let's look at the first column. 5 and 2 is what? 7. 2, 1, and 1 is 4. So you have 47 cents. Now we cannot compare those until we get the next answer, okay? We're still on number 1. Look at the value of the coins for number 1. You have no quarters, so you don't need to write down 25 cents. You have 1 dime. How would you write 1 dime? Decimal point, 1, 0. You have 2 nickels. How would you count 2 nickels? Each nickel is worth 5 cents. 5, 10. So you put your 10 cents underneath this 10 cents, right? And then you have 2 pennies. How do you write 2 pennies? Again, point, don't forget the 0, 2. Now you're ready to add these up, okay? All right, so let's look. How do you add the first column? 0, 0, 2 is 2. 1, 1, 0 is 2. So now you have 2. The problem looks like this. The first answer was 47 cents. Here's a box. And then the second answer was 22 cents. What do you put in the blank? Do you put a greater than, less than, or equal to? Okay, which one is bigger? 47 cents. So if you do it this way, the alligator's mouth opens. 47 cents is greater than 22 cents. That is number 1. If you have paper, you can write this down. If you have printed it out, good for you. All right, let's look. Okay, number 2. There are 10 problems on this page. I'll do a few and then we'll go to some word problems, okay? We're on number 2. Can you figure out how to find the value of the coins? Go ahead and start with number 2. You have 1/4, 2 nickels, 2 pennies. Go ahead. 1/4, 2 nickels, 2 pennies. Okay, how do you write 1/4? 0.25. How do you write 2 nickels? Each nickel's worth 5. 5, 10. Write down 10. How do you write 2 pennies again? 0.02. What do you do to find the total? Add. Look at the first column. What's 5, 0, and 2? 7. Second column, 2, 1, and 0. 3. And don't forget the decimal point. Put that to the side. The one we're comparing second has 1/4, 1 dime, 2 nickels, 2 pennies. How do you write 1/4? 0.25. How do you write 1 dime? 10 cents. Good. How do you write 2 nickels? Each nickel's worth 5 cents. 5, 10. Very good. And how do you write 2 pennies again? Decimal point, 0.2. Now you're ready to find the total, so you add. First column, 5 and 2, 7. Second column, 2, 1, and 1, 4. Don't forget your decimal point. Really, you should put your dollar sign too. Okay? Now, look at the two values. The first value we had was 37. The second value was 47. How can you compare those values? Okay. All right. So number 2, the first value we found was 37 cents. The second value we had was 47 cents. What would we put in our box? Which one's bigger? 47. Open to the bigger side. 37 cents is less than 47 cents. Now, you can look at your materials and you can complete 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Okay, you can complete those 10 for practice. Okay, now I want to jump on to the word problems. Okay, so today we're going to leave the comparing money sheet and go to the word problem number 2 sheet. Okay, now we did some of these yesterday. We did word problems number 1. And you know how yesterday we saw that word problems are not always just one step. Many times they are 2-step word problems. Now, we covered 2-step word problems a long time ago in the school year. So these should be review for you. You should know exactly how to do these. Let's remember some of our key words, okay? All right, so if we looked at our key words, we really could make a diagram like this, or we could make a Venn diagram. Do you remember in our reading skills, the last couple of weeks, we learned what a Venn diagram was? We compare what's alike. We contrast what's not alike. Let's do that with our math word problem words, okay? We've got add, subtract. Did you know that there are some words that could be considered both? Okay, Miss Gaylor's going to put a B for both in the middle. Okay, what are some words that are always add? You like to give me these in class, so I know you know them. Just shout them out at me. What word means always add? Okay, in all, good. All together, nice. Okay. Total, very good. Okay, those words mean add. We could think of sum, S-U-M, good. Just the word add itself. Nice. What are some words that are always subtract? Okay, less than, fewer, good. Okay. What are some other words that are always subtract? Sometimes money. When you talk about money, this word is change. When it says give me change, they're asking to subtract. Okay. What word means subtract? Minus. Good. Okay. Sometimes there's some words we could go on. There's other words, but what are some words that could be one or it could be the other? You see these sometimes in some word problems that sometimes it's add, sometimes it's subtract. Are there any words sometimes that could be under both? Okay. Sometimes there are some words that are under both. Okay. Sometimes a word like more could be both. Usually more falls under subtract, but sometimes you have to be careful, okay, with that word. Let's look at those words today as we talk about our problems, okay? Number 1, Mr. Chang. If you're making a list on paper and you don't have yours printed out, you can write down word problem, worksheet 2, and I'm just going to write Mr. Chang. Mr. Chang has four $10 bills, three $5 bills, sorry, and six $1 bills. How much money does he have in all? Do you already see a keyword there? In all. Good. So we know we're going to do what with our problem? We're going to add or subtract. Add. Okay. The key word in this problem said in all. So we know that we're going to add. Okay. Let's go back and see what information we know. He's got four $10 bills. Okay. So four $10 bills would mean, let's count by tens. 10, 20, 30, 40. Okay. So we can put 40. We're not dealing with change this time, just dollars. So I can put my decimal point with the two zeros or not. This time, let's not. He's got three $5 bills. Okay. Three $5 bills. Let's count by fives. 5, 10, 15. So I can put that directly underneath the 40. He's got six $1 bills. 6. Let's count by ones. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now, can I put that directly under the 15? It's less than 10, so I need to line it up with the ones place. Make sure you don't put the 6 here, but it goes here. Now, we know that it said in all, so we know we need to add. So let's look at the ones place. What's 6 and 5? 11. Bring down the 1, carry the 1. 1, 4, and 1 is 6. Don't forget our dollar sign. He has $61. There's two ways to write $61. Dollar sign, 61. Dollar sign, 61, decimal point, 00. Okay, they get a little bit harder as they go. There are 6 of these as well, okay, just like yesterday. Number 2, Danielle at her yard sale. Danielle got one $20 bill and 5 $1 bills last week. This week, she got 3 $10 bills and 5 $3 bills. What's the total amount she got for both weeks? This is a two-part word problem. I'm going to put number 2. If you're writing on paper, you can just put 2 and Danielle. This is her problem, okay? This is a two-step word problem. We need to figure out how much she made last week and this week. And then it says, what is the total amount for both weeks? What's the key word? Did you hear it? Total. Good. I'm going to write that down. You can write that on your paper too. What does the word total mean? To add. Perfect. Okay. So first of all, we got to figure out what she made last week. She's got one $20 bill. How much is that? $20. I'm going to write 20. She's got 5 $1 bills. How much is that? Well, we're going to count by fives. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this is what she made last week. 20 plus 5. We look at the ones place first. 5, tens place 2. She made $25 last week. Then we take what she made for this week. What does it say? She got 3 $10 bills. We count by what? Tens. 10, 20, 30. I write down $30. She got 3 $5 bills. We count by fives. 5, 10, 15. So I add that to my 30. This is what she made this week. Do we start in the tens or the ones? The ones. 5 and 0, 5, and 3 and 1, 4. She made 40. Is that the problem answer? No, it's a two-part problem. She made 25 last week and 45 this week. How do you solve for the answer? What's the total amount she got for both weeks? Use the space on your paper or on your loose leaf to write. She got 25 last week. She got 45 this week. The key word is total. Find the answer for me. Add. Good. What did you add 5 and 5? 10. 1 and 2 is 3 plus 4 is 70. Don't forget your dollar sign, $70. Did you get $70? I hope so. Let's look at number 3. All right, number 3 is also a problem that is considered 2 steps, okay? Number 3 on your paper, if you're following along, write 3, and his name is Patrick. 3, Patrick. Patrick has 2 fewer $10 bills than Brenna. We know Patrick has $64. How much money does Brenna have? Let's write down what we know. We know Patrick has, it says how much money? 64. Patrick has fewer than Brenna. Is her amount going to be more than 64 or less than 64? Patrick has fewer. So Brenna's number is going to be more. You see why Miss Gaylor put more on the list for sometimes add, sometimes subtract? This time, since she's got more, we're going to add 2 fewer $10 bills. Okay, so that would be 2 fewer 10s. So that's 10 and another 10, which makes 20. So I want to add to Patrick's total $20 to figure out how much Brenna has. All right, look at the ones place, 4 and 0, 4. Look at the 10s, 2 and 6 is 8. How much does Brenna have? She has $84. You see how sometimes some words can be on both? Very good. Okay, so there are 3 more problems for you to complete. Okay, let's try one more since it's a long one. Let's try number 4. On Saturday, Mary Jo received 5 $10 bills, 4 $5 bills, and 17 $1 bills. Okay, so I'm going to put, since it tells me what day, I'm going to put for this number, Mary Jo, and then I want to make sure I list. Always write out what you know. I'm going to put Saturday. Saturday is the day she received her money first. Then we're going to go back and make a Sunday list, okay? So let's just look at Saturday first. Mary Jo received 5 $10 bills. 5 $10 bills. Let's count by tens. Good. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. She received 5 $10, which is $50. 4 $5 bills. Let's count by fives. 5, 10, 15, 20. We're going to write down 20 right underneath the 50. She received 17 $1 bills. So that would just be $17. Okay, it's super important that you line up your numbers correctly. Make sure you start adding with the ones place. Okay, go ahead and add that back for me. $7 in the ones place. What in the tens place? 8. So on Saturday, she got $87. Are we finished? Nope. We got to figure out what she got on Sunday. Okay. We're going to do the same thing for her list for Sunday. So make sure you're not confusing your numbers. So I want to write Sunday with the information for this one. She received 4 $10 bills. So let's count by what? Tens. 10, 20, 30, 40. She received 5 $5 bills. Let's count by fives. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. She received 15 $1 bills. So let's write that as 15. This is how much she got for Sunday. Add them up. Start with your ones place. 0, 5, and 5. 10, carry the 1. 1, 4 is 5, plus 2 is 7, plus 1 is 8. So she got $80 on Sunday and $87 on Saturday. That's not the question. Look at the question. How much more did Mary Jo receive on Saturday than Sunday? In this instance, what does the word more mean? Okay, in this instance, more means to subtract. How much did she receive on Saturday? 87. How much did she receive on Sunday? 80. Now, it's important that you put the bigger number on top because you can't subtract otherwise. Okay? How much is 87 minus 80? Do you need to borrow? Can you take 0 from 7? You can. Okay, and then you got 0. So her answer is $7. Perfect, $7. All right, you did a great job with that. You have 2 more problems on the word problem sheet to complete, and you have 6 or 7 on the comparing money to complete. Make sure you get that done. You've got 2 days to do that, Thursday and Friday. Thank you for listening for that part. You get your next bit of money, another $5. Now you've got a $10 and a $5. Okay, very good. All right, so if you need to take a pause in the video, pause quickly, take a stretch, run to get a sip of water or whatever you need, or just join me and come on back for reading. If you have printed out your reading documents, you know that we are on page 447. I'm sorry, 444. Excuse me, 444. Today's lesson is on using a glossary. Did you notice that we've been talking about words? We've been talking about using context clues. Then we talked about how words can have different meanings. And we also talked about prefixes. This time we're going to talk about what a glossary is. Okay, so you know how like in the back of some of the books, even in your reading book or your math book, you can turn to the back of a book and you can see what we call a glossary. That's a list of words that have meanings. Now, it's different than a dictionary. A dictionary, the whole book is just word meanings. But glossaries are like a dictionary in that they list words, but glossaries don't have as many words as dictionaries. Glossaries do list the words in alphabetical order. Now, remember, we talked about this a lot at the beginning of the year, how to write words in alphabetical order. Miss Giller gave you some lists, and she had you write them in order. Now, a glossary is like a dictionary in that it tells meanings of important words, but a glossary picks words that sometimes are in that book that you would use. For example, if it's a science book, the words in the back are going to be about science. If it's a math book, the words in the back of the glossary will be about math terms like cup, pint, gallon, quart, we learned, right? So you can often find the glossary near the end of the book. Look at your page on 444. It gives you the definition of 3 science words. It says gas, planet, and star. Gas, something like air that is so light it does not have a shape. Then notice it gives you a sentence. Air is a gas we breathe. Planet, a large ball like object that moves around the sun. And then it gives you a sentence. The earth where we live is a planet. Star, a small dot of light in the sky. And it gives you a sentence. I look for the brightest star in the sky. Now, they want you to use those three words when you do the activity 1, 2, and 3. Okay, it says, the words that are underlined are the words that we're looking at. Okay, now, this one, the underlined word is star. Okay, use the glossary to figure out the meaning of which one we're talking about. Remember yesterday we learned how sometimes words can have several meanings and you have to figure out which one you're talking about? In this glossary, there was only one meaning of a star. Have you ever seen a star in the sky at night? In the meaning of this star is a small dot of light in the sky. So a glossary doesn't often give you several meanings like a dictionary does. It might give you just one meaning like this. This is the meaning of a star. This is what I would write on the lines. A small dot of light in the sky. Number 2, it looks tiny from our planet Earth. Okay, the second word you're looking at is the word planet. So you would go to the definition of planet and write it down. A large ball-like object that moves around the sun. Number 3, a star really is a giant ball of hot gas. You would go to the definition for gas. And you would look it up and it says something like air that is so light it does not have a shape. Do you see that the glossary, these only had one definition? When we talked about definitions like batter, it could have two. A person who bats in baseball or a something that we make put together like the batter of a cake. Now, these only have one definition. So when we use these on the next page, you'll be looking for the meaning from the glossary. Turn over to 445. Use the glossary to find the meaning of each underlined word. Okay, there's 4 words we're going to look at here. Close, which means near, glowing, heat, and plant. Number 1, what does the word glowing mean in a sentence? Listen to this sentence. The sun is a large glowing star. Would that mean A, burning, B, shining, C, warm, or D, pretty? Now I see 2 that I can just mark off. Remember how we learned how to kind of go through our minds and say, what could it not be? I know it's not going to be pretty. Okay, it's not going to be pretty and it's not going to be warm. But I have 2 answers that look similar. The sun is a large glowing star. Could it be burning or shining? Those are kind of similar. What should I do to find the answer? Go up to the glossary. It says the definition of glowing is what? Shining. At night, she saw her cat's glowing eyes. So should I pick A, burning, or B, shining? I should pick B. Very good. Very good. Okay, let's look at number 2. What does the word close mean in this sentence? It looks big because it is close to the earth. Think about these answers. Is it A, above, B, below, C, beside, or D, near? Listen again. It looks big because it is close to the earth. Above the earth? I can count that out. No. Below the earth? I can mark that out. Is it beside or near? Those words are very similar. I don't know. Let's look at the definition. It says near. My friend's house is close to mine, near. So would I pick beside or near? I'd pick near, D. You do the same for number 3. What is the meaning of the word plants in this sentence? The sun helps plants grow. A, are that plants boys and girls? B, living things? C, dogs and cats? Or D, things that crawl? What can I say? No, it's not that answer. I can take out boys and girls. They aren't plants. I can take out dogs and cats. They aren't plants. Now I've got 2 to choose from. Living things or things that crawl? Let me look. What does the definition say? Plant, something that is alive but is not an animal or a person. So would I choose living things or things that crawl? Living things. B, living things. One more. What does the word heat mean in this sentence? It also gives off heat that keeps us warm. Heat, is it what makes things cold? Something that puts out a fire? What makes things warm? Something that scares people. What can I cross out and I know that it's not right? I can cross out what makes things cold. That's not heat. And I can cross out something that scares people. I know that's not the answer. Look at the other 2. Something that puts out a fire or what makes things warm. What makes sense for the word heat? What makes things warm? Very good. Circle number C. All right, guys. So now we know how to use a glossary. We've made connections with a lot of things this week. Prefixes, context clues, dictionaries, glossaries, root words we've talked about, all sorts of things. We talked about phonograms with rigs, spelling patterns. Earlier, we did contractions, sentences, capitalization, parts of speech. You guys, I think, are fully prepared and can continue to work on those skills at home. What's a good way you can work on those skills? Even throughout the summer, you can be logging on to your iReady and work on skills all summer long. Have you done your 80 minutes this week? A few of you have. Some of you have done good, very good with the iReady. Good job, Elise, and a few others. Some of you have not. 80 minutes iReady reading and 80 minutes iReady math, okay? Pat yourself on the back. You just earned another $10 for those reading skills, okay? How are you coming along with your science? Did you make your spider yet? I can't wait to see them. I have not received any pictures yet, so take a picture and put it in an email, or you can upload it that way. Did you complete the Google form on spiders? Let's just take a quick look and see. Let me see if I can find it. If I've got it handy. Yes. Okay. Let's see. The Google form was on spiders, and that was for Wednesday. Now, you also had to read a book on Tuesday, complete the little quiz on that book called The Diary of a Spider. Then, let's see. Oh, 7 of you have done. Let's see who's done it already. You've turned it in. Good job. You did the Diary of a Spider. Good job, Charisma. Dante did it. Brendan, Jamar, Harper, Fumike, Kalik, and Elise. Okay, if I didn't call your names, let's get those in. Okay, now let's see who has completed the Google form. Has anybody done the Google form? The Google form to complete. Let me give a shout out to a couple of people who's done it. Thank you, Brendan, Jamar, Fumike, and Elise. Awesome. You guys are on top of it. Okay, so if I didn't call your name, get those in over the next day or so, okay, by Friday. Perfect. Now, then the fun part is to make your spider. I hope that you have done that as well. Or if not, you can do it today and get that uploaded to me. Thank you. We're getting to finish our book today. Have you enjoyed Charlotte's Web as much as I have? I sure hope so. Today, as we begin, yesterday we left off, and what was the setting where we left off yesterday? They were at the fair, remember? They were at the fair, and while they were there, did Wilbur win first place? No, he didn't. Who won first place? Uncle. But Wilbur got another award. What did Wilbur win? A $25 prize, right? Perfect. Wilbur went out to get his prize, and what happened to him? He fainted. And how was Wilbur able to get up and revive himself? Good old Templeton the rat, right? He bit his tail and revived Wilbur, and there he was. He got his prize, and Zuckerman was very proud. Do you think Mr. Zuckerman still has plans for Wilbur around Christmas time? I don't think so. I think he realizes what a great pig Wilbur is. What were the things that described Wilbur? The first time it was some pig. The second time it was terrific. The third time it was radiant. And then when he was at the county fair, Charlotte wove in the word humble. Humble means not proud and low to the ground, just to describe Wilbur. Perfect. Now, they came back from the fair, and let's find out what happened. We're on, if you have your book, chapter 21, page 163, Last Day. Charlotte and Wilbur were alone. Now, they're not back from the fair yet. Just the family went back to their house that night. Charlotte and Wilbur were alone. The families had gone to look for Fern. Templeton was asleep. Wilbur lay resting after the excitement and strain of the ceremony. His medal still hung from his neck. By looking out of the corner of his eye, he could see it. "Charlotte," said Wilbur, after a while, "why are you so quiet?" Now, what had Charlotte done the night before? She had made a big egg sack. What did she call it? Her masterpiece, or her magnum opus. Yes. And what do you think was in that egg sack? Babies, eggs. Yes, 514 babies, right? And now Wilbur says to Charlotte, "Why are you so quiet?" "I like to sit still," she said. "I have always been rather quiet." "Yes, but you seem especially so today," Wilbur said. "Do you feel all right?" "A little tired, perhaps, but I feel peaceful. Your success in the ring this morning was to a small degree my success." "Your future is assured," said Charlotte. "You will live now, Wilbur, secure and safe. Nothing can harm you now. These autumn days will shorten and grow cold. The leaves will shake loose from the trees and they'll fall. Christmas will come, and then the snows of winter, and you will enjoy the beauty of the frozen world. For you You mean a great deal to Zuckerman, and he will not harm you ever, she said. Winter will pass, the days will lengthen, the ice will melt in the pasture pond. The song sparrow will return to sing, the frogs will awake, and the warm wind will blow again. And all these sights and sounds next spring will be yours to enjoy, Wilbur. This lovely world. These precious days, she said. And Charlotte stopped. A moment later, a tear came into Wilbur's eye. Oh, Charlotte, he said, to think of when I first met you, I thought you were cruel and bloodthirsty. When he recovered from his emotions, he spoke again. Why do you do all this for me? He said. I don't deserve it. I have never done anything for you, he said. You have. You have been my friend, replied Charlotte. That in itself is a tremendous thing. I wove my webs for you because I liked you. After all, what is life anyway? We're born, we live a little while, we die. A spider's life can't help but being something of a mess with all the trapping and eating of flies. By helping you, perhaps I was trying to lift up my life a trifle, which means a bit. Heaven knows anyone's life can stand a little of that. Well, said Wilbur, I'm no good at making speeches. I have not got your gift for words. But you saved me, Charlotte, and I would gladly give my life for you. Wilbur said, I gladly would. I really would. I'm sure you would, said Charlotte, and I thank you for your generous sentiments. Charlotte, said Wilbur, we're all going home today. The fair's almost over. Won't it be wonderful to be back home in the barn cellar again with the sheep and the geese? Aren't you anxious to get home? For a moment, Charlotte said nothing, and then she spoke in a voice so low, Wilbur could hear only the words. She said this, I will not be going back to the barn, she said. Wilbur leapt to his feet. Not going back, he cried. Charlotte, what are you talking about? I'm done for, she replied. In a day or two, I will be dead. I haven't the strength to climb down from this crate into the crate. I doubt that I have enough silk in my spinnerets to even lower me to the ground. Hearing this, Wilbur threw himself down in agony and pain and sorrow. Great sobs racked his body, and he heaved and he grunted with desolation, which means loneliness. Charlotte, he moaned, Charlotte, my true friend. Come now, let's not make a scene, said the spider. Be quiet, Wilbur. Stop thrashing about. But I can't stand it, shouted Wilbur. I won't leave you here to die. If you're going to stay here, I shall stay too. Don't be ridiculous, said Charlotte. You can't stay here. Zuckerman and Lurvy and John Arable and the others, they'll be back any minute now, and they will shove you into the crate, and away you will go. Besides, it wouldn't make any sense for you to stay. There would be no one to feed you. You see, the fairgrounds will soon be empty and deserted. Okay, do you know what deserted means there? Nobody's around. Wilbur was in a panic. He raced and raced around the pen. Suddenly he had an idea, and he thought about the egg sack, the 514 little spiders that would hatch in the spring. If Charlotte herself was unable to go home to the barn, at least he could take her children along with him. Wilbur rushed to the front of his pen. He put front feet on the top board. He gazed around. In the distance, he saw the Arables and the Zuckermans approaching. He knew he would have to act quickly. Where's Templeton? He demanded. He's in that corner, under the straw, asleep, said Charlotte. Wilbur rushed over, pushed along his strong snout under the rat, and tossed him up into the air. Templeton, screamed Wilbur, pay attention. The rat, surprised out of a sound sleep, looked first dazed and then disgusted. What kind of monkey shine is this? He growled. Can a rat catch a wink of sleep without being rudely popped into the air? Listen to me, cried Wilbur. Charlotte is very ill. She only has a short time to live. She cannot accompany us home because of her condition. Therefore, it is absolutely necessary that I take her egg sack with me. I can't reach it, said Wilbur. I can't climb. You're the only one that can get it. There's not a second to be lost. The people, they're coming. They'll be here in no time. Please, 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 Templeton, climb up and get that egg sack. The rat yawned. He straightened his whiskers, and then he looked up at the egg sack. So, he said in disgust. So it's old Templeton to the rescue again, is it? Templeton, do this. Templeton, do that. Templeton, please run to the dump. Templeton, get me a magazine clipping. Templeton, please lend me a piece of string so I can spin a web. Oh, hurry, said Wilbur. Hurry, Templeton, hurry. But the rat was in no hurry. He began imitating Wilbur's voice. So now it's hurry up, Templeton, is it? Ho, ho. And what do I ever get for these services? I would like to know. I never get a kind word for old Templeton, only abuse and wisecracks. Side remarks, never a kind word for a rat. Templeton, Wilbur said in desperation, if you don't stop talking now and get busy, all will be lost and I will die of a broken heart, said Wilbur. Please, please climb up. Templeton lay back in the straw. Lazily, he placed his forepaws behind his head and crossed his knees in an attitude of complete relaxation. Die of a broken heart, he mimicked. How touching, my. I notice that it's always me you come to when you're in trouble. But I've never heard anyone's heart breaking on my account. Oh, no. Who cares about old Templeton? Get up, screamed Wilbur. Stop acting like a spoiled child. Templeton just grinned and lay still. Who made trip after trip to the dump, he asked. Why, it was old Templeton. Who saved Charlotte's life by scaring that arable boy away with that rotten goose egg? Bless my soul, it was old Templeton. Who bit your tail and got you back on your feet this morning after you fainted in front of the crowd? Old Templeton. Has it ever occurred to you that I'm sick of running errands and doing favors? What do you think I am, a rat of all work? Wilbur was desperate. The people were coming, and the rat was failing him. Suddenly, he remembered Templeton's fondness for food. Templeton, he said, I make you a solemn promise. If you get Charlotte's egg sack for me, from now on, I will let you eat first. When Lurvy slaps me, I will let you have the first choice of everything in the trough, and I won't touch a single thing until you're through. And the rat sat up. You mean it? He said. You mean that? I promise, said Wilbur. I cross my heart. All right, it's a deal, said the rat. And he walked to the wall and he started to climb, but his stomach was still full from last night's gorge. He ate too much. Groaning and complaining, he pulled himself away slowly to the ceiling. He crept along to get to the edge reach the egg sack. Charlotte moved aside for him. She was dying, but she still had enough strength to move a little. Then Templeton bared his long, ugly teeth, and he began snipping those threads away that fastened the egg sack to the ceiling. And Wilbur watched him from below. Use extreme care, said Wilbur. I don't want a single one of those eggs harmed. It's in my mouth, he complained. It's worse than caramel candy. See, the egg sack was sticking to his teeth. But Templeton worked away at the job, and he managed to cut the sack adrift, and he carried it to the ground, where he dropped it, right in front of Wilbur. And Wilbur heaved a great sigh of relief. Thank you, Templeton, he said. I will never forget this as long as I live. Neither will I, said the rat, picking his teeth. I feel as though I've eaten a spool of thread. Well, said Templeton, home we go. Templeton crept into the crate, buried himself into the straw, and he got out of sight just in time. Lurvy and John Arable and Mr. Zuckerman came along at that moment, followed by Mrs. Arable and Mrs. Zuckerman and Avery and Fern. Wilbur had already decided how he was going to carry the egg sack. Do you want to take a guess? There was only one way possible. What do you think he'll do? He would carefully take the little bundle into his mouth, put it on the tip of his tongue. He remembered what Charlotte had told him. This sack was waterproof, and it was strong. It felt funny on his tongue, and he made him drool a bit. And of course, he couldn't say anything. But as he was being shoved into the crate, he looked up at Charlotte and he gave her a wink. And she knew he was saying goodbye in the only way that he could. And she knew that her children were safe. "Goodbye," she whispered. And then she summoned all of her strength and she waved one little leg at him. And she never moved again. The next day, as the Ferris wheel was being taken apart and the racehorses were being loaded into vans and the entertainers were packing up their belongings and driving away in their trailers, Charlotte died. The fairgrounds were soon deserted. The sheds and the buildings were empty and forlorn, which means lonely. The infield was littered with bottles and trash, and nobody, of the hundreds of people that had visited that fair, knew that a great spider had played the most important part of all. No one was with her when she died. Chapter 22. A warm wind. Okay, before we read the last chapter, let Miss Gaylord ask you a few things. I'm sorry that Charlotte died in the story. The story has to go on. Did you catch why Charlotte couldn't help Wilbur anymore? She laid her egg sack and she'd given out. It was time for her to go. Wilbur threw himself down in agony and was upset. Of course, he was upset. Who did Wilbur get to help him in the end? Templeton. Good old Templeton. He ended up getting Templeton to go up to the egg sack and do what? Get it from the corner and bring it down to Wilbur. Why did Wilbur want to take the egg sack home with him back to the barnyard? So he could help and meet Charlotte's children, right? What did Wilbur use to bribe or get Templeton to do the work with? He told him he would let Templeton have his food first before Wilbur ever ate a bite. How did Wilbur end up getting the egg sack home into the crate? He put it in his mouth. Very good. Very good. The last chapter is called A Warm Wind. And so Wilbur came home to his beloved manure pile in the barn cellar. His was a strange homecoming. Around his neck, he wore that Medal of Honor. In his mouth, he held that egg sack with all of Charlotte's what? Spider eggs. There is no place like home, Wilbur thought, as he placed Charlotte's 514 unborn children carefully in a safe corner. The barn smelled good. His friends, the sheep and the geese, were glad to see him when he got back. The geese gave him a noisy welcome. Congratulations, they cried out. Nice work. Mr. Zuckerman took the medal from Wilbur's neck. He hung it on a small nail over the pig pen where visitors could examine it. Wilbur himself could look at it whenever he wanted to. In the days that followed, he was very happy. He grew to a great size. He no longer worried about being killed anymore, for he knew that Mr. Zuckerman would now keep him as long as he lived. Wilbur often thought about Charlotte. A few strands of her old web still hung in the doorway, and every day Wilbur would look up and look at that torn, empty web, and a lump would come into his throat. No one had ever had such a friend, so affectionate, so loyal, so skillful. The autumn days grew shorter, and Lurvy brought now squash and pumpkins in from the garden and piled them on the barn floor, where they wouldn't get nipped on frosty nights. The maple trees and the birch trees turned bright colors, and the wind shook them until they dropped their leaves one by one on the ground. Under the wild apple tree in the pasture, the little red apples lay thick on the ground. And the sheep gnawed at them, and the geese gnawed at them, and the fox came in the night and sniffed them. One evening, just before Christmas, snow began falling. It covered the house and the barn and the fields and the woods. Wilbur had never seen snow before. When morning came, he went out and he plowed the drifts in his yard, just for the fun of it. Fern and Avery arrived dragging a sled, and they coasted down the lane and out into the frozen pond in the pasture. Coasting is the most fun there is, said Avery. The most fun there is, retorted Fern, is when the Ferris wheel stops and Henry, Fussy, and I are up at the top car, and Henry makes the car swing, and we can see everything for miles and miles. Goodness, said Avery. Are you still thinking about that old Ferris wheel? Said Avery in disgust. That fair was weeks ago. I think about it all the time, said Fern, picking snow from her ear. After Christmas, the thermometer dropped to 10 below zero, and cold settled on the world. The pasture was now bleak and frozen. The cows stayed in their barn all the time now, except on sunny mornings when they went out and stood in the barnyard in the lee of the straw pile. The sheep also stayed near the barn, too, for protection. When they were thirsty, they just ate the snow. The geese hung around the barnyard the way boys hang around a drugstore, and Mr. Zuckerman fed them corn and turnips to keep them cheerful. Many, 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 many thanks, so they always said, and when they saw the food coming. Templeton moved indoors when winter came. His ratty home under the pig trough was too chilly. So he fixed himself a cozy little nest in the barn behind the grain bins, and he lined it with bits of old dirty newspapers and rags. Wherever he found a trinket or a keepsake, he carried it home and he stored it there. He continued to visit Wilbur 3 times a day, exactly at mealtime. And Wilbur kept the promise that he made. What was it? That Templeton could eat first. Wilbur let the rat eat first, and then, when Templeton could not hold another mouthful, Wilbur would eat. As a result of overeating, guess what happened to Templeton? He grew bigger and bigger and bigger. And he was fatter than any rat you ever saw. He was gigantic. He was as big as a young woodchuck. What kind of figurative language is that? He was as big as a young woodchuck. Simile. A simile compares 2 things and uses like or as. What does it compare Templeton to? A young woodchuck. The old sheep spoke to him about his size one day. She said this, "You would live longer," the old sheep said, "if you ate less." "Who wants to live forever?" sneered the rat. "I am naturally a heavy eater. I get untold satisfaction from the pleasures of the feast." And he patted his stomach, and he grinned at the sheep, and he crept upstairs to go lie down. All winter, Wilbur watched over Charlotte's egg sack, just as though he was guarding his own children. He had scooped out a special place in the manure for the sack next to the board fence, and on very cold nights he lay so that his breath could warm it. For Wilbur, nothing in life was so important as this small round object. Nothing else mattered but this egg sack. Patiently he awaited the end of the winter and the coming of the little spiders. Life is always a rich and steady time when you're waiting for something to happen or to hatch. And the winter ended, finally, at last. "I heard the frogs today," said the old sheep one evening. "Listen, you can hear them now." Wilbur stood still and cocked his ears, and from the pond, in shrill chorus, came the voices of hundreds of little frogs. "Springtime," thought the old sheep thoughtfully. "Another spring." And she walked away, and Wilbur saw a new lamb following her. It was only a few hours old. The snows melted and they ran away. The streams and the ditches bubbled and chattered with rushing water. A sparrow, which is a what? A bird, and a streaky breast arrived and sang. The light strengthened. The mornings came sooner. Almost every morning there was another new lamb to see in the sheepfold. The goose was now sitting on 9 eggs. The sky seemed wider and a warm wind blew. The last remaining strands of Charlotte's old web floated away and vanished. One fine sunny morning after breakfast, Wilbur stood watching that precious sack. He wasn't thinking about much. As he stood there, he noticed something move. He stepped closer and he stared. A tiny spider crawled from the sack, It was no bigger than a grain of sand, and its body looked like the head of a pin. Its body was gray with a black stripe underneath, and its legs were gray and tan. And guess what? It looked just like Charlotte. Wilbur trembled all over when he saw it. The little spider waved at him, and then Wilbur looked more closely, and two more spiders crawled out and waved. And then they climbed around and round on the sack, exploring their new world. And then three more spiders crawled out, and then eight, and then 10. Oh, Charlotte's children were here at last, he thought. Wilbur's heart pounded. He began to squeal, and then he raced in circles and he kicked the manure into the air. Then he turned a back flip and he planted his front feet and he came to the stop, and right in front of Charlotte's children, he said, "Hello there." The first spider said hello, but its voice was so small, Wilbur couldn't hear it. "I'm an old friend of your mother," said Wilbur, "and I'm glad to see you. Are you all right? Is everything all right?" The little spider just waved their leg at them. Wilbur could see by the wave they were glad to see him. "Is there anything I can get you?" said Wilbur. "Is there anything you need?" The young spiders just waved. For several days and several nights, they crawled here and there, up and down, around and about, waving at Wilbur, trailing the shiny drag lines behind them, just like Charlotte had done, exploring their new home. There were dozens and dozens of them. Wilbur couldn't count them, but he knew that he had a great many new friends. And they grew quite rapidly, and soon they were as big as a BB shot. They made tiny webs near the sack. And then came a morning when Mr. Zuckerman opened the door on the north side of the barn. A warm draft of rising air blew softly through the barn cellar. The air smelt of the damp earth and the spruce woods and of the sweet springtime. The baby spiders felt the warm updraft. One spider climbed to the top of the fence. Then it did something that came as a big surprise to Wilbur. The spider stood on its head, pointed its spinnerets in the air, and then let loose a cloud of fine silk. So that baby spider formed a balloon, just like Charlotte had. As Wilbur watched, the spider just let go, and the spider and it all went flying into the air. "Goodbye," it said as it sailed through the doorway. "Oh, wait a minute," screamed Wilbur. Where do you think you're going?" But the spider was already out of sight. And then another baby spider crawled to the top of the fence, stood on its head, made a balloon, and just sailed away. And then another, and another, and another, and the air was now full of spiders. And what were they doing? They were leaving, carrying the spiders, and Wilbur got into a frantic. Charlotte's babies were disappearing at a great rate. Come back, children," he cried. Come back." "Goodbye," they called out. "Goodbye, goodbye." And at last, one little spider took the time enough to stop and talk to Wilbur before making its balloon. "We're leaving on the upward draft. This is our moment for setting forth. We are aeronauts, and we are going out into the world to make our webs for ourselves." "But where?" said Wilbur. "Wherever the wind takes us, high, low, near, far, east, west, north, south. We take to the breeze. We go as we please." But all of you are going?" said Wilbur. You can't all go. I would be left alone with no friends. Your mother wouldn't want that to happen, I'm sure." The air was now so full of balloonists that the barn cellar looked almost though a mist had gathered. Balloons were by the dozens, were just rising and circling and drifting away through the door, and they were sailing off on the gentle winds, and they could hear "Goodbye, goodbye, goodbye" weakly to Wilbur's ears. He couldn't bear to watch it any more, and so in sorrow he sank to the ground. He closed his eyes, and this seemed to be the end of the world. So deserted by Charlotte's children, and Wilbur just cried himself to sleep. Poor Wilbur. When he woke, it was late afternoon. He looked at the egg sack. It was now empty. He looked into the air, and the balloonists were gone. He walked drearily to the doorway where Charlotte's web used to be, and he was standing there thinking of her when he heard one small voice Salutations. I'm up here, said a voice. Isn't that the same thing Charlotte had said to Wilbur? Yes, salutations. So am I, said another voice. So am I, said a third voice. 3 of us are staying. We like this place, and we like you. Look at that. Wilbur looked up, and at the top of the doorway, he could see 3 webs being constructed. On each web was one of Charlotte's daughters. 3 of the girls decided to stay. Can I take this to mean, said Wilbur, that you have definitely decided to live here in the barn cellar and that I'm going to have 3 friends? You can indeed, said the spiders. What are your names, please? Asked Wilbur, trembling with joy. I'll tell you my name, replied the first little spider. If you tell me why you're trembling. I'm trembling with joy, said Wilbur. Well, then my name is Joy, said the first spider. What was my mother's middle initial, said the second spider. A, said Wilbur. Then my name is Arena. How about me, said the third spider. Will you just pick out a nice, sensible name for me? Something not too long, too fancy, and not too dumb? And Wilbur thought hard, and he said, Nellie, he suggested. Fine, said the spider. I like that very much. You may call me Nellie. And she daintily fastened her orblind to the next spoke on the web. Wilbur's heart just brimmed with happiness. He felt like he should make a short speech on this very important occasion. Joy, Arania, Nellie, he began. Welcome to the barn cellar. You have chosen a hallowed doorway to which to string your webs. I think it's only fair to you to tell you that I was devoted to your mother. I owe my very life to her. She was brilliant, beautiful, loyal to the end, and I shall always treasure her memory. To you, her daughters, I pledge my friendship forever and ever. Well, I pledge mine, said Joy. I do too, said Arena. So do I, said Nellie, who had just managed to catch a small gnat. It was a happy day for Wilbur, and many more happy, tranquil days followed. As time went on and the months and the years came and went, do you know Wilbur was never without friends? Fern did not come up regularly to the barn anymore. You see, she was growing up, and she was careful to avoid childish things, like sitting on a milk stool near a pig pen. But you see, Charlotte's children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren, year after year, lived in that doorway. Each spring, there were new little spiders hatching out to take the place of the old, and most of them would sail away on their balloons, but always 2 or 3 would stay up and set up their housekeeping in that doorway. Mr. Zuckerman took fine care of Wilbur all the rest of his days. The pig was often visited by friends and admirers. Nobody ever forgot the year of his triumph and the miracle of those webs. Life at the barn was very good, night and day, winter and summer, spring and fall, dull days and bright days. It was the best place to be, thought Wilbur, in that barn, in that warm, delicious cellar with those garrulous geese, the changing seasons, that heat of the sun, the passage of the swallows, the nearness of rats, the sameness of sheep, the love of spiders, the smell of manure, and the glory of everything. Do you know Wilbur never forgot Charlotte? Although he loved her children and her grandchildren dearly, none of those spiders ever took her place in his heart. She was in a class by herself. It is not often that someone comes along who's a true friend and a good writer. But you know, Charlotte was both. Can you believe that's the end of our book? Now that we've finished, you are able to take the end of book test that's on the Google form. Don't forget to take it. Don't take it early, but only if you've finished it, okay? Let's talk real quickly as we review. Who was Mr. Zuckerman in the story? Fern's uncle. Good. The first word that Charlotte wrote was what? Some pig. What was the greeting that Charlotte and her daughters gave to Wilbur? Salutations. Good. Where did Charlotte make her egg sack? At the fair, the county fair. How did the egg sack come back home? In Wilbur's mouth. Good. What do we call Charlotte's masterpiece? Her egg sack, or she called it her magnum opus. How many eggs were in that Exact. 514. Do you remember the 4 words that Charlotte wrote in her web? What was the reason why she wrote the words? To save Wilbur from dying. Good job. Where did Charlotte die? At the fair. But Wilbur would live many more days. Where was his favorite place? In that barn cellar. Very good. Okay, I hope that you have paid attention closely and you've enjoyed our book study on Charlotte's Web. You may now finish all the quizzes and take those up, okay? You did a fabulous job. You got your last bit of money. Let's see, you got 5, 10, 15, and $25, just like Wilbur. Wilbur got $25 too. Thank you for being a good listener this time. Some of you are done. This is your last video. I'll see you tomorrow on Zoom to tell you goodbye as well. Those of you who are not joining me for the last 2 weeks, thank you for doing your work. Shout out to you. I've got about 7 or 8 who I never had to ask to return in. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you to your parents for getting behind you. And I really have appreciated it. You'll hear more from me before the end of the year, but just know that I love you, I miss you, and that I know you're going to do a great job finishing out and getting ready for summer, okay? And I'll see you next time, okay? Mwah. Bye-bye.